Now once we start writing our logic inside JavaScript, one of the most important things we'll encounter is called conditionals. Conditionals in JavaScript can be specified using if-else block. It looks something like this. If, and then there is some condition in the parents, and then the block of if starts within the curly braces. So this block of code within the first curly braces is executed when this condition is true. Else part has another block which is given by its braces, and that else part is executed when this condition is false. So now you can understand that for whatever be the condition, only one of the two blocks are going to be executed. If the condition is true, then this one will execute and the second one will not execute. And if the condition is false, then this one will not execute. The first one will not execute, because if that condition is true, then only it runs. If this condition is false, then this will not run, but this will run, because it is else. Else means it is opposite of this condition. So if this thing is false, then else block will mean that this condition is opposite of that condition is going to hold, which means that the else block will run. In simplicity, we can understand that it is just a branching strategy, where if we want to do something when a particular condition holds and something else when that particular condition does not hold, then if and else block is used. Anyway, you can just use if also. So let's say you don't want else, you just want to check that whether something is true or not. So let's do something like this, that let x is equal to 5, and then you say that if x is less than 10, then you print OK, let's say. Now if you run this code, then you see that OK is printed. So I don't need to use else. If can also be used only. I'll come back to else, but for this example you understand that how it is happening is that x is a variable, let's say, and then so inside this if, any condition can be there, anything can be there, any expression can be there. Okay, now that if that expression is true, then this will execute, otherwise this will not execute. So let's have another example. Log, let's say, hello world. Then you see that if 5 is less than 10, okay, that is true, then you see that OK and hello world both are executed. However, if you make this 15 and then you run it, then what will happen, that 15 is less than 10. This is false. Now if condition is becoming false, which means that this block will not be executed. So if I run this, then I will see that only hello world is printing, this thing is not printing. Fair enough? Okay, so next we'll see that what can happen is that we can also have else part. So let's say this is 5 and this thing we write else, and in else we are, let's say, printing not OK. Okay, so when we execute this, what will happen? See, OK and hello world is printed as usual, but now if 15 is done, last time nothing was printed if this condition was not true, but now I am having else block also, which means that if this condition is not true, then this will run. This will not run, but this will run. So right now when 5 was there, then this did not run and this branch ran. Now this branch is not going to run because 15 is not less than 10, but this branch is going to run. So one of, if else, one of the branches will run based on the condition, whether this condition is true or false. So you see that now we are printing not OK and hello world. So hello world is at the end, so obviously that is printed always, but this branching strategy is achieved using the if else block. Okay, Next, let's come back to that point which I was mentioning earlier, which is written here, that the condition is true or truthy, which means that this condition need not be always a true false condition. It might be a truthy or falsy, which means that if anything you put here, any expression you put here, see, any value in JavaScript is either truthy or falsy. Either it can be true or false, or any other expression, it will be evaluated as truthy or falsy, and based on that, if that expression is truthy, then this will be treated as true, otherwise it will be treated as false. Okay. Now we already know that what is truthy and falsy. We know that zero, null, undefined, okay, these things are empty string, these things are falsy, nan, and other things are truthy. Okay. So let's see, let's take an example. So let's say x is equal to 0, and rather than condition I am simply using x. Okay. So what is going to happen? Now x is a number and it is being evaluated. So it is saying that yeah, this is the condition. What is the condition? The condition is x. Now it will be, since this is not a boolean value, it is going to be treated as truthy or falsy, because true or false, it is not there, it is not boolean. Now it is 0 is falsy, and that's why it will be treated as false. So you can see that when I run this, then not okay and hello world is printing, because I am going to this branch. Okay, let's try to convert it to 10. Then what will happen? It is printing okay and hello world, because this value is being treated as truthy. Not only that, you can print here, you can have here anything. In fact, a proper boolean value also you can have. In that case, okay hello world is printed, or you can have a false value, or let's say not of true. Not of true is what? Not of true, we discussed that either I can write false or not of true. Not of true is false, and that's why x is false. So obviously false or falsy, then this will not be executed, this will be executed. So again we see that not okay is executed, that is fine. Apart from that, we can have let's say any string. So let's say hello, this is a string. Now this is a non-empty string. If non-empty string is there, then that is a truthy value. So this thing will be treated as truthy. So that's why this if is executed, else is not executed. Next, what if this would have been a simple empty string? Then again, empty string is what? Empty string is falsy, and that's why this will not be executed. The else part will be executed, and that's why we see that not okay and hello world is there. Okay. Now let's come back to somewhat more complicated expressions. So we know that, and again I told you that if it is null, then again not okay, because it is falsy. If it is undefined, then again it is falsy. What if I don't declare anything? Let a, by default x is undefined, and that's why it will be falsy, and that's why it will go in else block. You see, that's why it is going to else block. Okay. Now let's come back to something which is not a simple expression. So let's say 3 is less than 5. 3 is less than 5, and let's say a is less than hello. Okay. What is this? So let's print the value of x. After hello world, let's print the value of x, so that we will see that how it is being evaluated, x. So we see that x is true, and that's why we are going inside. That is fine. What if I simply write x this and a and hello? What will happen? Now what will happen is that, so for simplicity here, just write some arrow, and now if I run, I see that this x value is hello. X value is hello. Hello is treated as truthy, and that's why we got inside if block. Okay. Now what if this would have been empty string instead of a? See, Now not okay is being printed. Why? Because if here nothing is printed, actually this x is now empty string. Why empty string? Why empty string? Because 3 less than 5 is true, and the and short circuiting will happen like this, that it will keep on going forward till it finds a falsy value, and it sees a falsy value here, right? And that's why this thing got short circuited, and the value of this whole expression is what? Where the value is decided. The value is decided at empty string, and that's why the value of this whole thing is empty string, and that's why it is going inside not okay. In fact, you can try it with some other value, which is something like other falsy value, null. Then you will see that x is null, and then that's why again it will go in else block, and that's why you will see that not okay. Obviously, it is going inside else block, and why? Because x is, you can see that it is null. Okay, fair enough. So these are some conditions which are like, so you can understand that any sort of complicated expression can be put inside here, and then if it is true and false, then straightforward we decide true false. If it is, even if it is not true false, then any expression, whatever will the final value, that will be evaluated as truthy or falsy, and based on that it will be decided that if it is truthy it will go inside, otherwise it will not go inside, it will go inside else block if else is provided. Now there is another kind of expression which is if else if. So basically what is happening is that you can chain a number of if else blocks, something like this. So if else, so actually you can understand something like this, that let's say there is another variable. So let's say this x is 5, this x is 5, and let's say there is another variable y is equal to 10 or something, okay, and let's say there is another if else on which the condition is y. So and this, let's say this is okay 2, this is okay 2, and this is okay 1, this is okay 1, just for simplicity, so that we can understand what is executing. At this point of time, I know that both are truthy, so obviously both will be executed. So okay 1 and okay 2 both are truthy, so it is going inside if block of everything, right? But I am trying to say something like this, that in right now you see that if block is this thing from here to here, else block is from here to here, but what I am claiming here is that in JavaScript, whatever this whole else block is there, I can replace it with another whole if else block. So I can copy paste it, and you understand what is happening. From here to here, this was a separate if else block, but that is placed like, that is, you can understand it completely like this, that if else block is there, and inside this another if else is there. Okay, so shortcut of writing this thing is basically directly you can write like this also, same thing. Okay, and what does this mean? This means that, you see, if condition 1 is true, then obviously it will go inside, and we know that it will not go further, and that's why nothing will be executed later if condition 1 is true. If condition 1 is false, then it is going inside else block, but now else block has again another if else, which means that obviously condition first condition is false, but after that I will check that whether condition 2 is true or not, because if of the second level of if, we are having condition 2. So here if the code is going inside here, then what does it mean? It means that condition 1 is false, obviously, because if condition 1 is true, then it would have gone here only. Condition 1 is false, obviously, but condition 2 is true, and that's why it has gone inside this. And the final else will be executed when condition 1 is false and condition 2 is false, both are false. Okay, so irrespective of condition 2, if condition 1 is true, then obviously this will run. But after the condition 1 is false, then if condition 2 is true, then it is going inside here, and here obviously it means that everything is false. So you can understand it like this, that if right now I am saying that okay 1 is executed, why? Because x is truthy, right? If I make x as falsy, or let's say false, then obviously I know that now this cannot execute, so it will go in else part, and now y is truthy, and that's why it will be okay too. So just simplicity, write xy both here. So you see that x is false obviously, so it will not go inside this, but y is 10 and y will be treated as truthy. Okay, and that's why it is going inside this. That is fine. Now what if y is also falsy? So let's say null. Then what will happen? X is falsy, it did not go inside. Y is also falsy because it is null. So it will not go here also. So it will go in not okay to branch. Okay, not okay to. Why? Because both are falsy values. Now truthy and falsy, I am saying again and again, actually there is a simple trick which you can find to decide whether something is truthy or falsy. What happens is that if you have let's say if you have any variable, okay, any variable, let's say let x is equal to anything, let's say 10, whether 10 is truthy or falsy. So obviously if you print x, then it is going to print 10, that is fine, but I am interested in whether 10 is truthy or falsy. I know obviously it is truthy, but in general for any variable, whatever be the value, it is truthy if you put double exclamation mark, and if that value is exactly equal to true, then that thing is truthy. So what is happening is double exclamation mark in front is converting truthy to true and falsy to false. Let's try that out. So you see x is 10 is truthy, and that's why it is converted to true. Let's say 0 is falsy, and that's why it is converted to false. Let's see some other thing. Let's say hello. This is a non-empty string, right? And that's why it will be truthy, and that's why when I print this will be true. When I have empty string, then this is going to be false because this thing is falsy. Okay, and in that manner, anything you write null, you write undefined, anything you write, this thing undefined is falsy, and that's why it will give us false. So actually this is not some new syntax, it's just that we already know single exclamation mark x, this operator, right? When we do double exclamation mark, then it is just that, okay, I am using single exclamation mark and I am putting again another exclamation mark in front. So it is something like this, that single exclamation mark and then the value, and then on top of that I am using another exclamation mark. So it is behaving like that. Now how it does that? See, when you put a single exclamation mark in front of a variable, then what it does is that it if the value is, if x is truthy, then single exclamation mark x will be false, and if the value x is falsy, then the single exclamation mark x will be true. So basically and that's why it is going in opposite direction. That's why if you put double exclamation mark, then if x is truthy, you understand. So if after first exclamation mark, obviously it is always a boolean value, and then it flips it. So if you do double exclamation mark like this, then if x is truthy, then the whole expression is true, because x is truthy, then single exclamation mark it actually became false, proper false value, not falsy, false, and then false exclamation mark false is true. So basically if x is truthy, then the whole expression is true, and then similarly if x is falsy, then the whole expression is false. So this is just a simple trick to do that. But if you are confused in any value, let's say you are writing nan, right, and you are confused whether it is truthy or falsy, then you can simply see that it is false, which means it is falsy. Okay, and this is how actually inside the if else block internally they are going to decide like something is truthy or falsy, right? But in your brain you have to decide like that based on that thing, even if this thing is not actual boolean value, the logic will be executed based on the truthy or falsy behavior. Okay, this thing is fine. So now let's take a few examples which are like let's say sort of real world. So let's write a function. So let's write a function is even. Okay, and what this thing is going to do is that this will take a number n, and we have a if else block. It is going to print whether the n is the number n is even or not. So what is the condition for even? Its modulus with respect to 2 should be 0, which means the remainder, if n and I divide it by 2, and the remainder, if the remainder is 0, then this thing is even. So I print let's say number n is even. Okay, now we know that x is even, but what about else part? Else part will be exactly same, except that if this thing is not happening, which means the remainder will be 1. So if you divide something by 2, then the remainder will be either 0 or 1, right? If it will be 1, then it will go in this side, because this thing will become false. N mod 2 will become 1, and then 1 equal to 0 will become false, and then we'll go here and we'll say that number n is odd. Now obviously I run here, nothing will happen because I have not called this function, right? So is even, and I call this on, let's say, 1, then what will happen? Obviously number 1 is odd. Yeah, that is true. And if I say 2, then number 2 is even. Okay, and in the similar manner, if you see with 3, 4, 5, 6, then we will be able to see that all the values which are even, 2, 4, 6, they are even, and others are odd. It is printing perfectly. Okay, so this is the example. Like in real world cases, you will do something like this, that some logic you will write, and most of the cases try to write actual true and false values inside if. But for simplicity, because it is how others will be also able to read your code properly. But just it is the case that if you don't put actual true or false values, actual boolean values here, then truthy and falsy will be evaluated like truthy will be treated as true and falsy will be treated as false. That's what I told you earlier. Okay. Now this is a simple example of, let's say, if else, right? Now let's take a simple example of if else if sort of thing. So let's see a function which is something like let's say how is weather, and in this what I am going to do is that some x variable is passed, or let's say t variable is passed, which is actually the temperature. Okay, and I want to pass the temperature, and I want to see that how is the weather feels like to us. Okay, so our condition will be something like, if let's say this t is less than, let's say, 15. Okay, then I'll say that I'll say that weather is cold. That is fine. However, now we are in the example of else if. So else means obviously it is not cold, but not cold means what? Not cold means it can be pleasant, it can be normal weather, it can be pretty hot. Okay, so in else again I will write another condition, and this is the example where your condition 2 again you can put, and that again 2 condition can be like further complicated. So let's say t is greater than or equal to 15 and t is less than 30. Then if we have such a temperature, then it looks like the weather is pleasant, right? Now if both the conditions are not satisfied, both the conditions are not satisfied, then what is happening? Then we know that weather is going to be pretty hot. Okay, and now if you run this code with, let's say, 8, then what is going to happen? Then we know that this is going to say that weather is cold, and if I say 18, then this is going to say that weather is pleasant, and let's say I say 38, then it is going to say whether it is hot. So now you understood that you can have multiple conditions, based on that you can decide, and you can understand, like, again, whatever we have learned earlier, various types of complicated expressions that can be. So for example, let's say let's say let's say when t is greater than 15 and t is less than 30, which means let's say t is less than t is 20, let's say, then 20 should be pleasant. 20 should be pleasant, right? However, let's say even if this is 38, then 38, this thing is going to be false. But if I have some condition here which is going to be true, then it will still go inside. So let's say some variable x, right? And let's say x is less than 90, let's say, and then you can define, let x is equal to let's say 50. Now if I am checking for x is equal to house weather, I am checking for 38. Now earlier it was hot, you see. Now what is going to happen? Now it is going to happen that, yeah, 38 is less than 15, this is false. So I am trying to evaluate this thing. But what this will evaluate to? If I have t is equal to 38, then obviously this and will have higher priority. So let's put a bracket over here, right? Now if I start evaluating, then, and again it is in front, so firstly this will be evaluated. So if this will be evaluated, then I know that, yeah, it is not within 15 to 30, so this thing is false. But then after that, or is there, which means that it will keep on jumping next till it finds a true. So this thing is false, so it will keep jumping to the next, and it will see that x is 50, 50 is less than 90, true. Now this thing is true, which means that the whole expression now has become true, which means that even if I pass how is weather 38, what will be printed? It will be printed whether is pleasant. Why? Because it is how, like, whatever you say, it is a bug, or you change the function name, or you change the print statement, whatever, but the thing is that it is going inside this block, and that's why this thing is printing. And as per your logic of the code, you change the conditions, you change the body as per the requirement of your requirement of your code. Okay, so I believe this should be fine for now, and just try to do a bit of practice. Otherwise this thing is pretty simple. Next we'll see some more complicated examples in JavaScript. See you in the next video.